Tonight, we will be focusing on this topic, hopes and challenges in urban environmental education from multiple perspectives. I'm going to go ahead and very quickly drop in a bio of our moderator and bios of our moderator and our three panelists, because their work is very impressive and they deserve time to get to know about their perspective. And I don't want to talk at you about them. I want to hear from them directly. So take a moment to read through while I start introducing some of the voices we'll hear tonight. I'm going to start with a new friend. Fazia, do you mind unmuting yourself and saying hi?
Hi, I'm Fazia. I am a youth climate activist. And I also, as a young person, I guess my perspective toward environmental justice is, actually being in school, because I graduated high school literally last year. And it's been a different experience for folks because I was enthusiastic but people in my school who were highly impacted by Hurricane Sandy, like the whole school broke down, they weren't, which was really ironic. So it was just me trying to educate everybody on environmental justice when it should have been my school. As a youth climate activist, I've had the opportunity to help bring back funding for my school's AP environmental courses and also advocate on behalf of the political systems in which environmental education is structured. So I'm an organizer and activist. I love to educate my peers, and I work in the state legislature. So I've done a lot in my life, but I would say that, environmental education is one of the most important things that young people need in their lives, because that's something that we're being deprived of, especially in schools with low incomes and budget cuts and et cetera, because why should climate education be the first thing to go? Why can't it be something, well, not that any classes have to go, but like, why is it, but nice to meet you. Nice to meet everybody.
So you can see how delighted I am to have been speaking with Fazia over the phone. Shout out to Emily Fano, who's worked closely with Fazia in past programs for introducing us. Through Fazia's perspective, she has developed our questions in the theme of challenges and hopes in urban environmental education, and we'll be leading our questioning for our three wonderful panelists. So I'm very going to quickly just spotlight you all, our panelists. I hope say something about yourself, just a quick introduction so we can hear your voices. I'm going to see Jason, I'm going to start with you. I'm going to unmute you, ask you to unmute and spotlight you, say hello, and I hope people get to read about you as well so they can learn more.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jason Bonet, he, him pronouns. It is an absolute honor to be here with you guys. I work for Groundwork Hudson Valley up in Yonkers, New York, but I am a New York City boy all my life. So I'm very, very happy about the work that you guys do and very excited to be here. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Mary Ching, do you mind introducing yourself?
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so I'm so excited to be here, and I'm really excited to meet Fazia. It's really exciting that you're part of John Jay. And so I've been teaching at John Jay, and I'm an artist as well. Just happy to be here. Thank you.
Great. And then Donna, do you mind introducing yourself?
Hi, I'm Donna Rasunas. I'm principal of PS 110, an elementary school in Greenpoint, Brooklyn, and I've been involved in environmental education and trying to promote it at our school. And I've just, love everything about our natural world and hope to inspire or lead our children to the natural world so they can fall in love with it and grow up to protect it.
Donna, I feel like we work together because I work in the legislature, and I feel like your school is in our district. I'm not 100% sure, but I think I've worked with all of you indirectly at some point, which is amazing.
So Faz, I'm going to turn it over to you, and I invite any viewer to add a question in the chat that we'll be collecting at the end for Q&A. So turning it over to you, and thank you so much, all of you, for joining us this evening.
Okay, let's get started. So this question is for all three of you. So my question is, so what got you into sustainability and environmental studies? So, usually a lot of people, what was your true calling? How did environmental education become a part of your professional careers and just practices? Who wants to go first?
I can go first. Hi everyone again. So initially I was born in Puerto Rico and then moved to New York City when I was 6. But when I was in Puerto Rico, I was that kid running around in his diaper, no shoes on, just running around through the rainforests of Puerto Rico. And when I moved over to New York City, it was really not necessarily a struggle, but you have to consciously look for nature. So there was a lot of that in my life and trying to find more of it, find more snails, more leaves, more rocks, like consistently trying to go for it. So then I kept on trying to find more. I applied to the School for Environmental Studies near Central Park downtown in Manhattan, and then eventually got into SUNY ESF, the SUNY College of Environmental Science and Forestry. Initially, I went in as a biology major and was totally gonna be a lab dude that was just gonna write papers and not talk to anybody. But after the Trump election, that first one, I remember that day specifically, I was like, I can't do this. Like, I can't just sit in a lab anymore. I need to talk to people. I need to talk to people about these environmental issues. I have to do it. So that started my environmental education journey, and slowly but surely got to the point where I am now. My first job was working at a garden in the Bronx, kind of teaching garden classes and managing the garden. And now I currently work here. This is the Science Barge. It's a completely off the grid sustainability center. Those greenhouses, we're growing stuff hydroponically and aquaponically, and we're also growing stuff outside. So lots of stuff and lots of education and talking. So yeah, that's how I got into it. Thank you.
Love it. Those are one of my favorite things to do in high school during my environmental club. So love that. I guess now Donna or Mary can go.
I'll take it. So as a child, my very first thing I wanted to be was Smokey the Bear. So that was like my role model, the idea of being a forest protector or a forest ranger. And my mom being, an immigrant and being concerned that her youngest daughter wanted to do what she thought was like a dangerous job, convinced me or told me that, no, I can't be a forest ranger or Smokey the Bear because I'm not strong enough and I wouldn't be able to lift a horse. She actually said that. And so I thought that there was this exam that I would have to take and that I would have to prove my strength. So I switched that concept, and then I was thinking about writing or journalist and eventually art. And I feel like what I do now combines all of that. So it's like merging all three, and it went full circle. And so many things have come full circle. And the way I became part of the environmental education now, or teaching environmental justice at John Jay, was I was first in the art department. But my artwork always had environmental issues in it. A recent survey show of mine was called Our Hive is Sick. So since the 80s, I've been dealing with that topic in the art. And then John Jay formed an environmental justice program. We're not a department. So we don't have majors, we only have minors. And it was interdisciplinary. So I started to go to their meetings, and I was doing an exhibition that dealt with things about wildlife demand. And it was, and actually the environmental justice program gave me a tiny grant for that exhibition and public programming and things like that. So always trying to bring community in. So then I started to teach environmental justice. And everything's gone full circle. Like the garden I grew up with, now I'm turning it into a certified wildlife habitat.
I got it. Yeah.
Did you hear me?
Yeah, you're okay. Go ahead and continue.
Okay, I didn't know what
Sorry about
happened.
that.
'Cause I lost all video actually. So sorry about that. So yeah, it's been merging of lots of things from cultural history and family and trauma, personal grief into ecological grief. So I think it's been really good that way. And certainly this is the time to merge and come full circle and see all the connections.
That was amazing. Okay, now I guess we can hear from Donna, the principal of PS 110.
Yeah. So, gee, it's an odd question. How did you get into something that you love? So, just very quickly, you know, I guess I spent some time in the woods when I was a Lithuanian Girl Scout. My parents were immigrants, so we didn't go on vacations, but we spent, they sent us to a camp with very woodsy, lots of things going on, swamps, ferns, Mosquito Valley. So there was exposure there because I did grow up in a city. So maybe that had an impact on falling in love with nature. I'm not sure. But in terms of, education, what really catapulted everything for me at 110 was that my former principal, when I was still a teacher, noticed that I liked, green things and plants and, recycling. And so she appointed me the sustainability coordinator, which every school has to have. And then through that, I met Emily Fano, who, had us join eco schools. And I remember really struggling with that. Like, I can't do this. Like, we're going to get a bronze flag only, that kind of thing. And then what really catapulted everything at 110 for us was the Greenpoint Community Environmental Fund grant. And one of the grants awarded was to have the 4 local schools in Greenpoint have a full-time sustainability coach for like 3.5 years. And that gave us Fran Agnon. And that was amazing. And, together we worked on projects. And one of the things that I was able to incorporate into the day for our students was enrichment clusters around sustainability themes, because teachers were having a hard time like teaching it on their own in elementary school. So we would create all these different themes around sustainability and ask teachers to lead the session. And I know Bethany Kogut is on here, and she came to us through Mary Lou and Bees Alive grant, and she worked with our school leading birds, bees, and pollinators enrichment clusters several times, I think over 2 years. So yeah.
That was amazing. I love Emily. She's the reason why I am here. Like, she's one of the reasons why I'm where I am today. So my next question, I will be going to jobs. So as all of you probably know, since we're all, immigrants, I'm an immigrant as well, especially for people, who are first generation immigrants. It's very hard to find a job. And the fact that, it really is kind of messed up that in order to get a job in a field that you really love, you have to know somebody. And I've been extremely lucky that, I have been offered a job in the state legislature as such a young person at like literally 19 years old. But then there are other people who don't have access to jobs, who don't have the connections to get a job, especially people in, a lot of disadvantaged communities who don't know people in like places that can help them get a job. So how would young people be able to connect to the fields that all of you are working on?
So one thing that I like to tell people, and to get into the field, I think you're completely correct. It is really tough. And a lot of jobs, when you have to apply, they also ask for experience on top of that. And sometimes that could be really difficult. But one thing that I always tell people to get into, because you're right, you really got to get to know those people, those key players that can really bring you up or bring you into the organization. But I always say volunteer, right? Like volunteer for these organizations. That also gives you experience that you can put on a resume. But anything that really like gets you excited, right? Like if you want to work at if you want to grow food, you can easily volunteer at your local community garden or volunteering in your local park or any kind of nature center. The way I got into it was when I was in middle school, I was a City Year Young Heroes participant, which is a program every Saturday. All these middle schoolers would just go and volunteer in different realms in New York City. So sometimes we would go into, soup kitchens or animal shelters, and I absolutely fell in love with anything that we did outside. So any kind of park volunteer thing, I was like, this is exactly what I want to do. And so I always tell people, like, if you don't really know and if you want to get into it, just volunteer. Find a spot that you're really, really passionate about or looks really cool and you want to learn more. Just ask. Just be like, hey, can I volunteer? I'm free these hours this day. And people will probably say yes. Everybody wants help. So yeah, go volunteer.
I'll pick it up from there. So definitely for sure volunteering, and also just finding out which are the groups or the orgs or the people that you want to work with, who you admire, who you'd like as a mentor, and reaching out. And I think that, people, it's true that there's all these requisites of what the jobs want and things like that. But I feel that very often, because I write a lot of recommendation letters for grad schools and I read their essays and things like that. And I feel that in general, most people undersell themselves and are not even aware of their incredible attributes and often don't put that out first. If you're bilingual, by all means say that. If you have a reason, a personal reason, a stake in these issues, say that, because that makes a really compelling argument for hiring you. Because of that passion or that personal connection. And if you have ideas to write about them, research, talk about it, get it out there, speak about things, and then people will notice. Because there's so many blogs out there and everyone wants something written by a young person that's passionate about something. And don't hoard your ideas. Get them out because we really need them. I think now is a time where so many orgs and so many places want the input of young people, especially, immigrant communities, vulnerable communities that are in the, the front lines. And also I would say, I always use myself as an example because I'm not coming from a bio degree. I'm not an environmental, educator with a standard background. So I have an art degree and then I work for UNICEF China. And then, so I have a lot of nonprofit, but not in environmental ed at all. And it was because I took an issue that was very personal, like the whole ivory and Chinese wildlife demand, illegal wildlife trade. And I started to do an exhibition on it and getting more involved that way, that I ended up doing this type of work.
So that does leave me, we're a school, so the path to work in a school is very structured. You have to get a bachelor's and get your teaching certificate. There are very few jobs that don't require education. So I don't have a lot to say about that. I mean, if you want to, because we're a school. So,
well, I do have a follow-up for you, Donna, if you would like to elaborate. So a lot of students aren't often encouraged to be, active other, because for me, I was forced into doing it because of college applications. Colleges love seeing well-rounded people who join all these clubs and such. And you are principal of an elementary school. What methods do you think, your school is doing well when it comes to encouraging children to, push for environmental education or activism, or something that is not related to the environmental education, but it's something related to what they feel? Because, with the recent school shootings, a lot of students have come out, in protest of gun violence. So anything, they're passionate about. Do you have any ideas on that?
Well, we do, or pre-COVID, we had a lot going on in our school in terms of activism. We had a green team. We really adopted this curriculum of like place-based learning, where we really wanted each grade to have like an essential question that they were going to answer, and it was connected somehow to our place. So students were actively like researching and also going out into their environment and looking at where they're living and understanding the history, and being critical thinkers and looking around to see if there's a need in the environment, and wondering how they could participate and make the world better. So we have a strong connection with Lentil Garden, and also Newtown Creek, because that's so polluted. But our students study it and try to figure out, like, what are the processes of going forward and trying to clean that up. So we do really advocate and want kids to go out there and to have a voice in the world and to grow up to be like active citizens solving problems.
Oh, I love that. I mean, when I was in elementary school, we had none of that. And I, went to school in Brooklyn, so I'm so happy that the next generations are being, prepared and taught to, and being encouraged to be confident. Like, how Mary said, not to undersell yourself, but they're growing up feeling like they can do it, and not that they shouldn't do it. So my next question is for Mary. What do you hope in the future, drawing on your experiences teaching environmental justice to undergraduates? And that's very, I'm really curious about that because I'm an undergrad, so would love that advice.
So this question, I feel like there are maybe two parts to it, because are you talking about future for the college or future for the earth, or really both? I guess they're really the same thing.
What do you think you want to expand on? I think they all intersect.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I have to say, so I think I've been teaching environmental justice for like maybe 6 years or so, but teaching in the college for about 14, because the environmental justice program is fairly young. I don't know if it's 7 or 8 years old. But as far as one of the big things is that I'm hoping that there would be more importance for environmental justice and its many, many issues in the future within the college and in the greater world at large. Certainly, I feel it is like the issue of our times. And one of the great needs is more integration and collaboration with other fields and the connections, how it's part of economics and political science and human rights and labor and immigration. And certainly at a school like John Jay, where social justice is so much in the limelight, I hope that we absolutely have to see more of that, of connections and less of these division, like these fields being so narrow. And it's one of the things that I really try and emphasize is the interrelationships. And that also, so much is about like, getting rid of that myopic view, getting also the school itself and other departments to include all these issues in part of their curriculum. And that is part of the 5-year plan at John Jay, is that climate actually has to be discussed in part of regular classes, not just in environmental justice or environmental sciences. But it is the issue of now, for sure. And I think it is really a part of the greater, jobs in the future. It pretty much has to be.
Yeah, I love John Jay saying.
But less of that division and divisiveness and less of the competitive and narrow focusing. I think that's one of the biggest problems we see in general. And then the opposite being people just in total despair or just so disheartened that they, not interested in doing anything. So it's that urgency to compel people into action versus, being lethargic.
Yeah, that answer leads me to a great segue to Jason's question. So Jason, what are some ways that you found success in your organization to engage younger generations to outdoor research and like outdoors in general? And then do you see a change in the demographics of who is spending time outdoors? So, not to elaborate too much on that question, when I work in a lot of different environmental spaces where we discuss intersectionalizing different groups that are not necessarily white to include groups that are actually impacted by climate change, so what are your thoughts on that question?
Yeah, so my organization through COVID, we've definitely had to switch and pivot into a more virtual format, which kind of sucks and doesn't necessarily bring people outdoors, but it allows us to reach a lot more students than normal. So a lot of the people that I'm primarily working with are Yonkers public school students. We do some work with Yonkers, New York City students as well. But a lot of it, creating that virtual curriculum, right, has really allowed us to see and just be able to teach a lot more students than normal. We can pile in multiple classes into Microsoft Teams and really engage with many classrooms. So that's one aspect. And then my organization, another department outside of the education program is our youth leadership program. And it hires 25 to 30 Yonkers public school high schoolers to do lots of different stewardship projects all over Yonkers and Westchester, and they get paid for it. So this is a job where they're learning about environmental issues, and then actually doing stuff in parks all throughout Westchester and Yonkers to actually, make a difference. So these kids, like these students, are definitely we call them our green teamers. I think somebody mentioned green team earlier, so I was like, but these are our kind of our champions. So when we want to bring more youth involved or into, let's say, the science barge, for example, we get those students, we get those green teamers to kind of lead the charge. We recently had a Halloween program, and I was like, hey guys, we need to have some sort of Halloween open to the public. What are you guys' thoughts on this? And they're like, let's make it like a zombie apocalypse, surviving the climate apocalypse lesson. And we're talking about sustainability in your home and emergency weather preparedness because of climate change. So it was really exciting. So getting those champions, those youth champions, to really kind of be at the forefront of this, because nobody wants to hear a 26-year-old talking about emergency weather preparedness, right? They want to hear from their peers. They want to hear from their friends. So finding those champions and then giving them the pedestal has been what we've been doing and what we really have seen success in. But yeah, and for demographic change, I have been in the environment, I think similar to you, I've been in a lot of environmental spaces throughout my life, and sometimes I'm the only queer one, sometimes I'm the only Puerto Rican one, sometimes I'm both, the only one of either. And what I've been seeing more in this time is that we're seeing a lot more, a bigger push for these environmental organizations to be intersectional. A lot of people are asking these questions of why is it only white people in these spaces? And it's not that, these marginalized groups don't want to be in environmental spaces. They're just usually, barred or not asked to be in them. So asking that question and getting people to come in has been what I've been seeing, a lot more of a change, so more diverse people in these outdoor spaces.
No, I love that answer, and the fact that you said a lot of the students working in the organization get paid for it, which is something that's, new and should be done, because a lot of, it's like free labor before people started getting paid for the internships they've done. So now I love that, students get a chance to have that work experience as well, as contribute to the world. It's, I feel like I am deeply into politics, and whenever people hear about money and anything else, they're like whoosh, bombs exploding. You all probably know what I mean. But that's a great segue into Donna. My question for Donna. So like I mentioned, I went to school in South Brooklyn, right by Coney Island Beach. It's called John Dewey High School. That school does not promote sustainability as much as it should, especially because after Hurricane Sandy, it literally broke down and went under emergency generators for like 2 years, because the only thing separating the school from the beach is sand. And then, so Donna, my question is, how much access do you think students at your school have to different aspects of environmental justice? I feel like you actually mentioned that, but there are so many aspects. There's, Jason focuses on, outdoor research. Mary teaches environmental justice along with art. I am personally very interested in the policy and legislation of it. And then the second question is, do you think that there could be more chance of expanding these fields, such as, environmental law, conservation, ecological justice, social justice? There's a lot, and then like critical race theory, etc.
Yeah, so you realize that we're an elementary school, so we're dealing with young children, like from ages 4 through 10, pre-K through 5th grade. So I think it's about the talent that we have in the building. It's a little bit hard to it's a slower process to shape somebody to get on board to teach sustainability and care about the environment. So if there's an opportunity for a new hire, look for people that are passionate about this. And we were successful in hiring somebody. I can't remember how many years he's been with us, but he's an incredible resource, and he full of resources. As a matter of fact, tonight he's at he's a member of the NYC DOE Office of Sustainability's Climate Education Leadership Team. And he's also won a Big Apple Award last year. And so he's loves civics. So he infuses, he's a 4th grade teacher right now. And so he infuses his science and social studies classes, talking about the environment and conservation, and he says that you can't talk about the environment without touching on social justice. So that's kind of the upper grade, on the upper grade spectrum, and he's very passionate, and I think that's one of the reasons he wanted to come to our school as a new hire several years ago. Fran, you would have loved him. And but we also have lower grade children, right? And you can't talk about that environmental law or things like that. And I just want to plug in something that I really stuck with me, that I learned from Fran, is and I can't remember the educator who said it, but it's like no gloom or doom before 3rd grade. And so I know that I think I'm going into another question right now, but yeah, it's very different for little children, because really the sort of the goal for young children is just to go out and observe, and fall in love and wonder and be curious and look at ladybugs and learn about pollinators and just observe, like be the science artist thing, and ask questions. I mean, that's really their role right now. You don't want to like talk to them about, the world is going to end and we have to do something about it for young children. So there's a divide there, like lower grade and then like slightly older children that can handle it.
No, I guess that question was a little too advanced. I guess I should have structured it in a different way. But I guess when it comes to environmental law, a lot of young students in elementary school really look up to the fact that, you know, we have people who look like them in government. Like, for example, in my city council district, we elected the first Bengali woman as in the New York City Council ever, Shahana Hanif, and I'm Bengali, and I'm in her district. So every time I see her, I see myself as like a Bengali person, you know, as a woman who like rose up to be, you know, working in New York City Council. So that's, you know, I guess I should have structured it like that, so a lot of students could see, you know, young people running for office, winning, you know, people who look like them, who represent them, who have similar, you know, families as them. It's so I apologize for the, you know, way the question was structured. But I love your answer. I think that's an excellent answer. I wish my my siblings are one of my siblings is still in elementary school, so I hope that he gets that opportunity to learn about the things that PS 110 teaches. Okay, so this question is for all three of you. So even though environmental education is an important strategy to engage. So sorry. Is an important strategy to engage young people in addressing pressing challenges. So the time to make things change is, you know, running out. It's literally just, it's terrifying how much is running out. And, you know, and then the biggest things that we can do to actually address the climate crisis is to advocate to policymakers to hope to decrease emissions. And, you know, trust me, it's extremely hard to do that. And while creating, like, while creating good jobs, as well as, you know, we have racial inequality, income inequality, we have all of this issues, especially affecting marginalized communities. So do you believe that the work you do may bring influence into the movement? And not to ramble on too much, I just want to say that, you know, I've been to a few youth climate strikes, and number of young people, literally ages 2 months to like I don't even know, like so many young people have attended these things. So how do you think your work influences this movement?
I'll take that. So, you know, that's a question that I ask myself all the time, given the urgency of, you know, of now, of the multiple crises. So I really appreciate this question. It's something I talk about to colleagues and friends all the time that are in this field, because it is the question of what is the best use of our time. You know, it should be doing completely on research or policy change, or is, you know, or is it just education? Or I don't believe it's just one thing. Actually, I think it's a multitude of things. And one thing that always gives me a little bit of sense of some kind of hope or some kind of progress is that I am seeing over the years more and more students, because this is just a minor for them. You know, it's not their primary. And still in any given class, I probably only have maybe 2 students that are minoring in environmental justice out of 24, or pre-COVID out of 36. So it's just a small percentage. But it's really good to be speaking to general education students and making them aware. And what is happening is that there is definitely an uptick of students applying for grad school that are like climate related majors or environmental, or at least carrying that awareness into their fields. So that's been a big positive. And then the thing that I do to really try and push it further is that I have guest speakers. So I always have someone coming out from enforcement, like Department of Environmental Conservation, someone from law. So I have the senior attorney from Earth Justice coming in, and then someone from policy. And that was actually our best speaker, and the most uplifting was talking about various campaigns, international, and actually being able to make change, like stopping a coal plant from being opened up, or deforestation, or a mining, or and things like that. That was my speaker last week. So, so I feel like making students aware that it is possible to have some positive change is helpful for the movement in a bigger picture. And then also on the other end, just trying to get people to move into action, right? And then always using like myself as a role model, taking like, you know, like the grief of my mom's passing, and then inheriting elephant ivory, like carved ivory. It was old, but then trying to, you know, convert that into action, and then further research, and then research that can change policy ultimately. So that's a long answer to say yes, but I always feel like there's so much more to do, and there is. But also keeping in mind, as you said, there's so many issues right now, and that's something I wanted to add. I forgot to say it earlier about teaching undergrads at this time, in that, you know, students are under so much pressure, especially at CUNY, because in some cases, they're also the job winners. The job, you know, they're the ones who, not job winners, they're the breadwinners. So they have to bring home money, they have to help their parents, or maybe they've lost their parents. So I think there's so much issues there as far as supporting our younger generation, and that's supporting them not just financially, but also emotionally, mentally, logistically, and building some kind of trust and community. And from that, hopefully we could have some kind of movement to really change policy. And in the meantime, also, you know, because we're in the here and now, that we just really can't fall into despair while, you know, the larger governments are not doing what they should be doing. So that's mainly it.
That was very inspiring. I have to say, all three of you will probably be my role models now, my people I look up to for whatever I do in the future. You'll probably see me running for US Senate one day. I'll be like, you know, I met these awesome panelists that are so incredible. But I'll give the spot to Michael or Donna if you'd like to answer that as well.
So I forgot the question. It was about time is running out, that one?
Yes, that one.
I'm just gonna jump to the second part of it. Do you believe that the work you're doing may influence
that
this
one
movement? And in the bigger picture, well, certainly, yeah, very young children are very impressionable, and they need, you know, they need models. They need to hear passionate speakers like our teacher, you know, who brings in resources of real life examples. I mean, through picture books or real articles about what's happening in the world. And there are a lot of stories out there that are written about, you know, kids getting together and cleaning up a river or cleaning something up. So really need, I think, you know, passion is a key to ignite everyone to be involved and to care. So I do think that the work that we're doing, if done well, would have a big influence on the future. At least that's my hope, right?
And I do think that my work is influencing the bigger picture. As environmental educators, our main goal is to to have that curiosity, to make sure that we're fostering that curiosity in these students' minds. But I think it's also important to arm them with, I mean, not necessarily arm, but to give them the tools they need to have these kinds of conversations, right? So that they can tell and talk to people about climate change and greenhouse gases and fossil fuels and renewable energy and all of these things, and be able to word that in a way that other people, let's say family members, other people in general, will listen to them, right? What we do in our classrooms is we're trying to help them easily identify and give them the words to use to be able to have these kind of conversations. When I was a kid, I was constantly surrounded by people that was like, climate change isn't real. And then I would pull out all of this like scientific data and they just would not listen to me. So how to have that conversation with people and how to foster that curiosity in in this field, right? And kind of what Mary had said, our job is to really build community and to show that we're all in this together, and all of us are really, we all have a role to play in this issue, and whether we do anything or not, that's still some sort of impact happening to our planet. So just giving people the tools and our students the tools needed to have these conversations.
Love that. Such amazing answers. So it's 6:31. I want to be respectful of everybody's time on this, and I know the panelists are exhausted from all these questions. I would be too. So I guess, Fran or Bonnie, if you'd like to move on to the networking event so our amazing audience can get involved.
Sure thing. We have actually 2 questions, Faiza, in the chat that I'd love to share with you and the rest of the panelists. So the first one comes from Mary Liu, and her question is, how has COVID impacted environmental education in your setting, and how might it impact your work going forward? That's a meaty question. So we'll let Faiza will let you moderate that.
Oh, wait, do you want me to answer it or?
Oh,
No.
sorry. I was feeding you the question so that you could feed it to your panelists. I apologize.
Okay.
Well, I could answer for us. Yeah, so it's been tough because we're worried about everyone just it's just been obsessing about COVID. The school structures last year were so different, and it kept changing about who wants to come to school, who doesn't want to come to school, and the Department of Ed was changing structures as well, so that was like a huge focus, just to keep the school open and running smoothly and keep everybody safe. And now we've been pretty lucky in the fall that it's been, in our school at least, we didn't have any COVID, but now we're seeing an uptick in it in our school, and with actual positive cases, and kids having to isolate. So all of those make it harder to do all of the things that we did before COVID, because we're just worried about learning loss, like academic reading and writing and math, that kids have the learning loss that they've experienced because remote is not as effective for young children. And so that's what we're, pressured to work on, is those priority standards and those basic educational skills. And the mixing of kids is also an issue. And so all of our special projects it's been more difficult.
Yeah, I'm just glad everyone's getting vaccinated. Now we can all, I can attend mass rallies, all boosted up. Fran, what is the second question that was on the chat?
There is a question from Robert, and the question is for Donna. And the question is, let's see if I can see it here. Oh, sorry, I have to open my window a bit here. Do you do any special outreach to the parents and or families of your students around these environmental issues?
Oh, yeah, that's something I didn't get to mention. So we have very involved parents, and through their efforts, we actually, they actually wrote a grant several years ago. It was a GSEF, Greenpoint Community Environmental Fund grant, to redo one of our schoolyards into a garden. We couldn't break the concrete, so we had these special big planters and plants and trees planted. And there's a very active greening wellness committee who takes care of the garden. They take care of it during the summer, watering it. It's still alive, Fran. And then we have a front garden, and we have actually a committee of parents who have led like gardening classes for our youngest students, our pre-K students, and our kindergarten students. And then we've had one of our parents lead a composting enrichment cluster. So they are, they would like to see us outdoor more. We have a park across the street, and they would like to see us be outside all the time, if that's not possible. But yes, so in summation, we have very active and parents who want to contribute to the environmental education of their children.
All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and jump in here. We do have a little bit more meeting to get to, but thank you to all of our panel members, Fazia for moderating that, and for Donna, Jason, and Mary for those wonderful answers. Clearly, there's a lot of great work out there, and please continue to share that. I'm going to pitch the news blog again, write up something about your program, send it over this way, and we can share it with everybody and then get it up on that EEAC website.